welcome to another NJThrives small business webinar. So these are weekly webinars that we create, that the NJSBDC creates to help New Jersey small business owners start, grow, and thrive. I'm your host, Christian Pichardo, NJSBDC Specialty Consultant and CEO at nilumamedia.com. And at the NJSBDC, we're basically a statewide program powered by the SBA and partners to help small businesses in New Jersey with three things: no cost small business consulting, training and events starting at $0, just like this one, and exclusive small business resources only available to our clients. So for today's agenda, as always, we go over some small business headlines. After that, we jump into the webinar, and after the webinar, there's going to be a little bit of a Q&A. So for the small business headlines of the week, we have, first one here is the 8A Business Development Program. So basically what this is, and I'll summarize it for you guys. Basically, once you are certified in this program, you will be eligible to receive federal contracting preferences. So you may be pushed to the top of the list or what have you. And you'll also receive training and technical assistance to help you as a small business owner. So that is basically what this program does. Here are a little bit more details, but we're going to put the link of this into the chat in case you are curious on how this might help you. And number two, the SBA is hosting an Elevating Small Business Series webinar, which is celebrating LGBTQI+ Pride Month. So this is today, actually, right after this webinar. So you could finish this one and jump right into this other one. And yeah, we're going to drop the links for this into the chat. And that's really it for our small business headlines. Not much going on, not much that's new this week. We do have, if you're not already subscribed to our newsletter, I suggest you do. Just go to our website, you'll get a pop-up, NJSBDC.com. And every Monday, we don't bombard you with stuff, we're not spammy. We'll send you something every Monday or Tuesday, and you'll get a lot more headlines and news items and stuff like that there. Now, before we jump into the webinar, I'd like everyone to keep two things in mind. Type your questions into the Q&A box. If it's in the chat, sometimes it could get lost. And also in the Q&A feature, you can ask a question anonymously. And number two, we ask that you please stay throughout the end of the webinar, because at the end of the webinar, you're going to get redirected to a 3-minute survey. This helps us create better events for you and gives us a lot of good feedback. So once you complete that survey, you'll get access to the webinar materials and the recording of this webinar. So now I'd like to welcome Tim Peter. He's founder and president of Tim Peter & Associates and digital marketing, e-commerce expert, professional speaker, all-around great guy, and consultant.
Thank you so much, Christian.
You got it. You got it. Floor is yours.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Great to see you all today. Thrilled to see such a large and engaged audience. Lovely to have you here. So we're going to dive right in. We're going to jump right in. There's this thing. It's called Google. Maybe you've heard of it. I don't know. What is clear is your customers have heard of it, right? There's no question about the fact that your customers use Google a lot. In fact, would it shock you if I told you that your customers are conducting 5.6 billion, that's billion with a B, search queries every single day? That's insane, right? That would shock me. It shocked me the first time I came across that number. So, let's make this a little simpler. 5.6 billion, too big a number to get our heads around. That's 233,333,333 search queries per hour. Oh, wait, that's 3.888889 million search queries per minute, almost 3.9 million search queries per minute. Even that's hard to get our head around. So would it shock you if I told you that there were 64,815 search queries per second? Your customers rely on Google at the core of everything they do all day, every day. Whenever they need something, they reach and turn to Google to get the help that they need. To be fair, some people turn to Bing, some people turn to other search platforms, but everything we're going to talk about today works kind of the same way. Now, I'm going to focus only on Google today, but be aware all of the same lessons apply, regardless of whether you do this in Bing, whether you do this in ask.com, any of those. It's all going to be kind of the same, okay? Google is so important to our customers' lives, and they know it, that they actually put somebody in charge at Google of this relationship. There's a guy named Bill Reddy. He came from eBay, and he tells businesses every day, think of Google as the connector between you and your evolving customer base. By the way, check out Bill Reddy's title. Bill is the president of Commerce, Payments, and Next Billion Users at Google. They're thinking about how do we get 1 billion more customers, even though it's already used billions of times every single day. So we want to think about how important it is for us to work with Google the right way so that when customers ask questions, when customers need help, they can find us, they can find our businesses. Christian mentioned a moment ago my background a little bit. It's important for me to point out, I am myself a small business owner. I'm a consultant. I have a consulting firm. I've got a couple of employees, and we're out there every day trying to gain customers just the same as you are. So everything you're experiencing are things that I live with myself. Okay. So let's talk about why search actually matters and why it works for your business. First, it is the thing that is the only way to reach prospective customers at their moment of need. Now, Google has identified that there are certain types of intent that customers have when they do a search. Sometimes they just want to learn something, right? And Google calls this a know intent, K-N-O-W. I want to know something, right? Sometimes they want to do something like, how do I install a new toilet in my bathroom? You'll see video search and things come up like that, right? And a key one that we care about is the go intent. Google has let us know that roughly 46% of searches contain what they call location intent. So notice here, I did a search for restaurants. Think about this. Obviously, if I'm doing a search for restaurants, it is unlikely that I'm looking for a restaurant someplace where I'm not, right? Most of the time, I don't know about you, it's noon where I am, it's noon where you are, it's 12:10. If I'm searching for a restaurant, that's probably because I want lunch. And if I want lunch, I'm probably not looking for a restaurant that's, 100 miles away or 200 miles away. I'm looking for restaurants where I am. That's what Google means by location intent. And if we know that there are 65,000 searches every second and that 46% of those searches contain location intent, that means that there's almost 30,000 local search queries every single second. What we want to do, and what we're going to talk about today, is how to make sure that when people do these local search queries, you're one of them. You show up and you get to benefit. Now, one other reason why search marketing works is it's never an interruption. There used to be these things, magazines and television shows. Maybe you've heard of these. I don't know, right? And, I don't know about you, but you're watching a television show, and all of a sudden, every 7 to 8, 9 minutes, something would pop up in the middle of the television show. They'd stop the television show to tell you about new and improved, laundry detergent or great deals at a car dealership or things like that. None of which have anything to do with the thing that you, the customer, want to do, which is watch the television show. Or if you were reading a magazine, if you remember magazines, you'd be reading them, and all of a sudden these pieces of paper, these little cardboard cards called BRCs would fall into your lap, which again, weren't things you wanted to see. You wanted to read the magazine, right? That's interruption marketing. Search doesn't work that way. I'm not being interrupted when I conduct a search. If I'm looking for a restaurant, or I'm looking for a music store, or I'm looking for a place to get my phone repaired, or I'm looking for a place to get my car repaired, or I'm looking for somebody to, help me with the landscaping in my backyard, I'm looking for a restaurant or a music store or a place to get my phone repaired or a place to get my car repaired or somebody to do the landscaping in my backyard. All of these are things where I'm actively seeking help. We know that search helps customers buy. In fact, with Go Intent, we know that after searching for something nearby, 76% of people end up visiting the business within one day. Within a 24-hour period, they show up at your store, assuming you have a store. So this is why local search matters so much to you. This is why it's so important to your business, because we know that of those 30,000 people who are searching every second, 3/4 of them are going to end up visiting the business within a single day. That's an extraordinary reality, and something that we need to be prepared to take advantage of. Now, you're probably familiar with search. You're probably familiar with the idea of, I want to rank in search and the like. And we think about winning at search very simply. You want to appear at or near the top of search results for target customers who are using relevant keywords that convert and do it at the lowest possible cost. That's what we're always trying to get to, right? We don't just want to appear at the top, because if we appear at the top for the wrong term or the wrong customer, or we spent too much to do it, we don't benefit. We don't get a business benefit, or it costs us too much to recognize that business benefit. But if we get there for target customers who are using the right keywords that convert, and we're able to do it really inexpensively, that's a win. That's how we win at search. So everything I'm going to talk about today is all about how you do this, how you make sure you do this, and in particular, how you do this for local search when people are looking for you. And we're going to do this with something called a Google Business Profile. And I'm going to show you how to do that in just a minute or two. Now, one thing to be aware is Google gets to decide who wins, who shows up at the top for those target customers using those relevant keywords that convert. So Google picks this, and they do it using something called the algorithm. You've probably heard this word before, right? The thing to be aware about the algorithm is, A, there's not an algorithm. There are lots of them, lots and lots and lots of them. B, they change regularly. Google changes continually. And C, they change them for small groups of searches at any one time, because they recognize when you've got 5.6 billion searches per day, 60,000 searches per second, 30,000 location searches per second, they recognize that you don't want to change everything for everybody all at once, because that may not be appropriate. They're changing a little bit at a time. And I like to think of the algorithm as a machine with a bunch of knobs on it, a bunch of dials, right? Where they go in, they're engineers, and they say, we're going to turn this dial up a little bit. We're going to turn this dial down a little bit. We're going to turn this dial way up. We're going to turn this dial way down, right? And when we think about local search, when we think about location-based search, there are 4 dials that are particularly important. There are 4 dials you have to pay a lot of attention to, and it's what we're going to be talking about the whole rest of our time together today. And those 4 dials are: first, do the keywords match the searcher's intent? Are they looking for someplace local? Right? That's the number one thing we care about. The second thing we care about is, do we have quality content that answers the question that the customer is asking? Do we have the information that they need to get an answer? If you don't match their intent and you don't have content that answers their question, the likelihood that you will show up is pretty close to zero. I'm going to say that again because that's really important. If you don't match the keyword intent of the customer and you don't have quality content, you don't show up. That's true for your Google business profile. It's true for your web page. It's true for any content you create online that you want to appear in search. You must get those two right. And that's where we're going to spend literally 95% of the time we talk about here. The other two things that they care about with regard to location, which you have to do some work on, but not a lot, is the searcher's device, because we know that when people search for, restaurants on their phone, they're definitely looking for restaurants nearby to where we are. Definitely, almost definitely. And of course, searcher's location plays a huge role there as well, because if we're saying restaurants or restaurants nearby, or, I don't know, bookstores nearby or clothing stores nearby or any of those kinds of options, we want to make sure what's nearby. So knowing the location matters. We're going to talk about that a little bit. So the way that we do this using something called Google Business Profile. You may know it by the name Google My Business. They have recently changed the name. They're the same thing. They are precisely the same thing. But just be aware that whether I say Google My Business or Google Business Profile, I mean the same thing. If you already have a Google My Business listing or a Google Business Profile listing, this is what we're talking about. And we're going to talk about how you make it better so that you show up more often when you match the customer's intent and you've got the right kind of content for them. Okay. So the first thing that you have to do to make this work is you have to claim your listing. And you can claim your listing in one of three places. The first of these is Google Business Profile. Just go to google.com/business, and I will show you that link in a minute. And again, when you get these slides, you'll see it in there. Or you can do a search for Google Business Profile, and it will take you right to this page that you're seeing here on the right. You can also do this in Google Maps. And you can also do this in Google Search. I'm going to show you all three. You don't need to do it in all three. You only need to do it in one. But be aware, you can do it in any of these. Google, by the way, lately has been showing people, you usually see a pop-up when you go into Google Business Profile that says you can do this directly in Maps, or you can do this directly in Search. So I'm going to show you all three. But again, I cannot emphasize enough, you only need to do it in one of these. Okay, so again, Google Business Profile, just go to google.com/business. It will take you right there. You go ahead and you say manage now. It might ask you to sign in, and it will allow you to claim your business. You can also do this in Google Maps. I'm showing you two different ways to do it in Google Maps, not because I'm trying to complicate this, but because I want you to see. You do a search for your business, and there's usually a link right there that says claim this business. Or you can tap on the details. You can scroll down. Here we are on a mobile phone, and you'll see overview, updates, photos, about. You tap on about, and you scroll down and you will see claim this business. So these are the different ways in Google Maps that you make the change and that you claim your business and start to update your profile, right? You can also do this directly in search. So let's say I didn't go into Google Maps, but I just did a search on Google and I said, great, let me go ahead and search for this company. You have a knowledge panel off on the right that says own this business. Or if you're in the Google mobile app, same thing. You'll search for the business. You will see an about button. You tap on that and you tap on update this place or own this business or claim this business. By the way, this is a little frustrating because Google tests the language regularly. So It sometimes says own this business. It sometimes says update this place. It sometimes says claim this business. These all mean the same thing. This means you are the business owner and you want to say, this is my business and I want to have the rights to manage this profile so that customers can find me in search and in Google Maps. Okay, so be aware, this is all the same thing. Google's just playing with the language different times to see what works best. Okay, so remember, Google Business Profile, Google Maps, Google Search, choose one and claim your business there. Now, your customers, when they go to Google, they're asking questions, and they can ask all kinds of questions. But in practice, you only really need to worry about two, at least at a high level. And the first of these is, am I going to be satisfied when using your product or service? Your customers want to know, if I choose this landscaper, or if I choose this dry cleaner, or if I choose this clothing store, or if I choose this salon. You know, I think about salons a lot, you can tell, right? But if they're asking the question, if I'm choosing these, am I going to be satisfied? And the second question they're asking is, why should I buy from you? By the way, I'd really like to say thanks to my brother-in-law for posing for this photo. Big shout out. Everything you do needs to be targeted at making sure we can answer these questions and do it in a way that is clear and consistent with our customers, or for our customers. Okay. So we know what people are looking for. Over the last couple of years during the pandemic and since the pandemic, we've seen significant changes in the way that customers search. There has been a 3,000% increase in searches for curbside pickup in the last 2 years. 3,000%. I don't know about you, but 3,000% is a lot of percent. That is a really big number, right? We have also seen in just the last year, 90% growth in searches for near me and in stock. So people saying, I want something near me, or I want to know if it's in stock. You know, I'm searching for, I'm just going to pick, an iPhone. I'm looking for a new iPhone. Is the iPhone in stock near me? That's something we've seen. It has almost doubled in the last year. And the last thing to be aware here, and I'm going to come to this in a little bit, but we know that 71% want to buy from companies that share their values. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world. There's lots of people stressed about all kinds of things. They want to buy from people who are like them and who share their values, who they feel good about working with, right? Now, big companies recognize what's going on here. Right? 3,000% increase in searches for curbside pickup, 90% growth in near me and in stock searches. Look at what Walmart's doing. This is Walmart's homepage. You'll notice right on the homepage, whoops, I beg your pardon, I tapped that. Good heavens. I forgot how to use my computer for a second. But you'll notice there are a bunch of searches for people doing near me and in stock and curbside pickup. Look what's right on their homepage, really big: pickup or delivery, groceries, and even more. Look what's here: pickup and delivery. They know what people are searching for, and they're making this super prominent right on their homepage. Well, the nice thing is a Google Business Profile allows you to do it right within Google before they even come to your website. You should do this in your website too. And if you don't have a website, in 2 weeks' time, we're doing a webinar on how you can get your own website. But you want to make sure you do it in your Google Business Profile as well. Walmart knows this, and it seems to be working out okay for them. Right? So in your Google Business Profile, there's a lot you can do with your Google Business Profile. There are many, many things you can show. There are many, many things you can talk about. I want to make this a little simpler for you and say, I want you to focus for now just on 5 key features. And they are locations, they are details, they are images, they are reviews, and there's updates. Okay, so again, location, details, images, reviews, and updates. And we're going to go through all of these in a little bit of detail. So first, let's start with location. Location, you simply click on, I'm going to go back here for a second. Notice when you're on home, you go ahead and you click into the location itself on info. If you do this in maps, it's a little bit different. If you do it in search, it's a little bit different. I'll be showing you different versions of this as we go forward, but simply click on info or on the location tab. You'll see it in a couple of moments, and that's where you update your location. And Google looks for something called NAPW, name, address, phone number, website. They look for frequency and they look for accuracy in what they call citations, meaning every place else they find your business on the web. So that can include your website, that can include your Facebook page, that can include any telephone directory listings. So if you're using like a yellowpages.com, it can include things like Yelp. It can include things like LinkedIn if you're a B2B company, right? If you have a business that you sell to. It can include your Instagram if you put your name, address, phone number there. So all of these, they look for frequency and accuracy. So frequency is pretty simple. How often do they see this same listing? Accuracy is a little more complicated than you might think. Accuracy doesn't just mean, is it correct? Accuracy means, is it consistently correct? So notice this is the address of my former location. We've just moved. I haven't updated my business profile yet. It's coming, but this is our former location, and it is 45 S period Park Place, number 152, Morristown, New Jersey, 07960. Now notice I said S period. I didn't say South. I said S period, because if Google sees that sometimes it says S period and sometimes it says South, they're getting smarter at knowing that those are the same thing, but they don't always know it's the same thing. And if I said number 52, 152 here, but on a different one, I said 152 without the number sign, or on a different time, I didn't put the 152 at all, and it just said 45 South Park Place, Google could see those as different locations, and that can hurt your ability to show up when people search for things that are nearby, because it's not 100% sure where you are. Right? So be conscious that any place you put your address, you're putting the same address. Your same name, same address, same phone number, same website. The same goes for your name. The name of my company is Tim Peter and Associates. But if I list it as Tim Peter and Associates LLC sometimes, or Tim Peter Associates sometimes, Google might say, wait, are those the same place or are those different? And might not give it as much credit as they would if it's absolutely consistent every time. Same is true for your website, for your URL. Make sure it's, if it's https://www.timpeter.com, make sure it shows up that way every place, or it shows up timpeter.com every single time, or www.timpeter.com every single time. You want to make sure you're being very consistent there. And the last one is phone number. And phone number is a little complicated because some of you might have multiple phone numbers. You might have multiple locations. You might have multiple an 800 number versus a toll number, right? The upside is the 800 number isn't as important any longer. We don't really pay for long distance the way we once did. So don't worry about that too much if you don't have one. If you have multiple locations, this gets a little more complicated. I'll show you something in a little while that shows how you can set multiple locations. But, if you have one storefront or one location where your customers can go, make sure you put the phone number for that one here. Okay. The other thing you need to be conscious of, this is only going to apply to some folks. But if you have a physical location where people can go, be aware of its precise physical location. Where this is very common is if you are located, say, in a shopping center, the map might show, let's pretend that this big gray blob over here is a shopping center, right? And the map might show that this is where you turn into the shopping center, but your business is at the far end of the shopping center over here, and there's no access from this street. You would actually grab the pin and drag it to where your business is. Make sure you do that because that'll help when they're giving people directions. Remember, lots of people search on their maps on their phone, or they have their phone in their car and they've got the map telling them where to go. It's going to tell them, go to this spot and stop. And they're not going to find your business because you're way down here, right? So be very conscious of that and drag the pin in those cases where you're actually in a slightly different spot in the shopping center. Okay. So I told you we were going to care about 5 things. The first one was location. The second one is details. We want to make sure we have the right details about our business. So here I'm showing this in Google search. You can kind of see in the background here, this was a search result for the business. And I've got different spots here where I can click on edit and you get this little pop-up. And we click on the about link. And there's where I put the business name. I can choose categories. You set one as the primary. We're not going to spend too much time about this today, but remember, think about the categories that your customers are going to call you. Think about what they care about. That's what you're looking for. Okay. Excuse me for one moment. I beg your pardon. Thanks. I just allergies killing me today. So the next thing you want to care about is your description. Again, give a good description of how you help customers. Remember, what do they care about? They care about, why should I buy from you? And am I going to be satisfied? This is your opportunity to tell them. So go ahead and tell them, but be very clear. You can fill in your opening date if you choose to, not strictly mandatory. And make sure you have your phone number. Again, we talked about making sure we have that consistent. Within your details, you'll notice right up here, there's also a contact tab. You click on the contact tab and you get brought to this part where you put in your phone number and your website. Remember, NAPW. By the way, notice here we have location and areas. Here's our business location. If you're doing this in search, same thing. You would simply scroll down and go ahead and pop that in. Okay. You got a tab up here for hours. If you have hours, go ahead and make sure your hours are listed. This is really, really, really important. This is really important. We have 4th of July weekend coming up. Are you open 4th of July weekend? Well, here's where you can add your holiday hours right here to say, you know what, we're not open on 4th of July, or we're not open this weekend, or we're taking our family on vacation this week. People search, they look for your business and they find, it looks like you're open, but we're not really sure. That's going to cause a problem for them. Don't make them guess, make it clear. Tell them we are closed on Monday or we are closed on Saturday, right? And notice, this is something that I find really fascinating when Google shows things like this, right? Notice you can add more hours, access, breakfast, brunch, delivery, dinner, drive-through, happy hours, kitchen, lunch, online service hours, pickup, senior hours, takeout. Now, obviously, this is restaurants that they're thinking, but what is this telling us? We know that Google has about 65,000 searches every second. This is telling us these are the things that customers search for. Customers search for these so often that Google is saying, why don't you tell us whether or not you have these right up front? So if you have these, if you see things like this, different businesses, you might see different options here. But if you see these, that's a sign that that's questions customers are asking, and you want to answer as many of those as you possibly can that are valid to your business. Now, I'm not going to choose breakfast. I'm not that kind of business. But look at these and make sure you're very clear if this is a thing your customers care about, and Google is letting us know this is a thing our customers care about. You want to take the time to answer that question, because if you don't, the person across the street might, and that might get business to them and not to you. Other options. Remember, I talked about 71% of people want to buy from businesses who share their values. One of the things you can click on is more and identify the ownership. Are you a Black-owned business? Are you Latino-owned? Are you LGBTQ+ owned? Are you veteran-owned? Are you women-owned? go ahead and say yes to any of those that you can, or no to any of those you can, because people who share those values will want to see that. Another incredibly important one is, do you have accessibility options? Accessibility is wheelchair accessible entrance, has wheelchair accessible restroom, has wheelchair accessible seating. Go ahead and click yes if you do, click no if you don't. Don't make people guess. Clearly, Google's getting searches for this. Clearly, Google's saying these are things your customers care about. We want to go ahead and let customers know. There's also an amenities section where we can say, great, do you have gender neutral restrooms? Yes or no? Go ahead and save that. If we click on the crowd, we can say things like the crowd is LGBTQ plus friendly, transgender safe space. Again, yes or no. Don't make customers guess. Health and safety, incredibly important. Do people require an appointment? Some businesses, we have to have appointments. You know, I'm doing work right now with a friend of mine who's a designer, and they require appointments, not because of health and safety, but just because realistically they have a space, they have a showroom, they want people to come in and see the showroom, but they only have a couple of people working, so they want to make sure that there aren't folks just milling about or standing there waiting. So do you require appointments? Do you require masks? Do you require temperature checks? Do the staff wear masks? Do the staff get temperature checks? These will change over time, right? We're in a current state with the pandemic. 6 months ago, we were in a different place. 6 months from now, we'll be in a different place. So you want to look at this, you know, probably every month to every quarter and make sure that everything here is still accurate. Or if something changes in your business, go ahead and update this right away. Don't make customers guess. Cannot be more explicit about that. Finally, there are service options. Do you offer online appointments? You can go ahead and check this box, and they have on-site services available. You can go ahead and check this box. It will go ahead and give you the ability to say, okay, I want people to be able to schedule their appointment right here. It doesn't provide the scheduling tool, but it does provide you the ability to give a link to your scheduling tool so that you can go ahead and schedule those appointments right there in your Google Business profile. Again, make it easy for customers to do what they want to do. Now, obviously, this is a lot of information. This is a lot of information for your customers to take in. Notice that Google often does this with just yes, no, because what they're trying to do is make the information simple. We're looking on a screen that's this big, right? We want to make sure that anything we're seeing is very, very simple. We may not just be looking at a screen this big. We're probably looking at a screen this big when we're riding on a subway or riding on a bus or driving in our car and looking at the map. Hopefully that's all we're doing when we're driving in our car, is looking at the map. Right? You don't want to be one of those people on the parkway with your lap, you know, your phone in your lap while you're driving. But if we do, don't make it big blocks of text. We want to make the information snackable, shareable, and sharp. Snackable, meaning people can review it very, very small bites. They can get it really easy. Sharp, meaning it's to the point. It answers the question and gets out of their way. And of course, shareable, we'd love if they tell their friends on Facebook, or they tell their friends on Instagram, or they tell their friends on TikTok, because we want them to actually be an advocate for us. Now, nothing is more snackable, shareable, sharp than photos. Images sell. Look at this big, beautiful photo we see on this website. We know that pretty pictures sell products online. They sell products, they sell services. Look at all the photos we see in a search result, that we see on Pinterest, that we see on LinkedIn, that we see on Instagram, that we see in Facebook. Pretty pictures sell products. So Google Business Profile gives you the ability to upload images. Notice you can get, your overview, a cover shot, a video, interiors, exteriors, people at work, your team, your identity, things like branding. They care about all these images because your customers care about all these images. So you want to include as many of these as you can. As many high res, as many pretty images as you possibly can that show your business in the best possible light. We know that when people see images, when people see high quality images, their likelihood to buy goes up consistently. Really, really important. And again, Google wouldn't ask you for the information if their customers weren't asking them for the information 65,000 times a second. Okay. So I said we were going to talk about location. I said we were going to talk about information details. I said we were going to talk about images. The next thing that we care about are reviews. You've probably heard people refer to something called influencer marketing, right? Influencers, you think of like the Kardashians, you think of people who, have a huge following on social media, and they get people to pay attention to everything they say and do what they say. Well, nothing against the Kardashians. The Kardashians are who they are, right? Love them, hate them, however you feel about them, they are who they are. But here's the thing about the Kardashians. The Kardashians aren't who they are because they're the Kardashians. They are because of their audience. You want to identify who are the most persuasive voices. You want to get them to sing your song, to tell your story, to participate in the creation and curation of a positive brand story for your business. But the reason that they matter is it's not the size of the network, it's who's in it. Are they talking to the people who you want to talk to? Now you might say, well, that's great, but there are no Kardashians for my business. There is nobody who's going to go ahead, influence a whole ton of people. And my answer to that is wrong. I don't mean to say it that rudely, because you're all doing the best you can and you're all great, but you have people who are terrific, who are influencers within your market. You know who they are? They're your customers. Your customers are your secret sales force. The reviews and testimonials that they provide for your business tell a powerful story about your business and about your brand. The other thing to think about is they're going to tell people anyway. Right? They're going to tell everybody they meet. If they have a great experience, they're probably going to tell a person or two, or they're going to post something about it on Instagram, or they're going to post something about it on Facebook, right? If they have a terrible experience, they're going to tell everybody they meet for the rest of their lives. I once bought a car from a place called Woodfield Chevrolet in Woodfield, Illinois, and I got just absolutely jobbed by these people. Like, it was the worst experience imaginable, right? Do you know when that happened? 1993. And here we are 20 years later, and I'm still telling people about it because that's how bad the experience was. We care about customer experience because we want people to tell a powerful, positive story about our brand. Somebody said, poor Woodfield Chevy. I think they went out of business, and all I can say is good. No, I kid. I don't really want them to go out of business, but I want them to provide good service to people, right? So here's your reality. Assume you get one customer a day. I'm going to make the math on this really simple. Assume you get one customer per day, 5 days a week for 52 weeks out of the year. That's 260 customers that you interact with every single year. Now, in your business, that could be multiply that by 10, multiply it by 20, multiply it by 100. Or it could be, we get one customer a week. That's fine too. That's completely fine. Divide this by 5. It's fine. The point is you get 260 customers every year, assuming you get one customer a day, 5 days a week, 52 weeks out of the year. The average number of Facebook friends people have is about 200. By the way, this is true across all social networks. If they're only on Instagram, if they're only on TikTok, if they're only on LinkedIn, they have about 200 contacts that they're connected to, which means that those 260 people can connect you to a potential audience of 52,000 people who are just like them, right? If they're people who already bought from you, you want to talk to more people who are like the people who bought from you. Here's 52,000 of them there for the taking. Now, we know that not everybody's going to say something about your business, so let's assume that only 1% actually promote you. That's still 520 people. Assume you convert 5% of those people. That's 26 additional sales. That's a potential sales increase from our baseline of 260 customers of 10%. Would you want to grow your business 10% without you doing anything more than actually paying attention to the ratings and reviews that your customers are giving you online? The best part is you can use this information to improve your business. This is a customer of mine. This is a client of mine. They're a restaurant, they're a hotel and restaurant in Charleston, South Carolina. These are the things that people said were great about them. Great staff, great breakfast, great location, great for couples, comfortable, friendly, etc. You know what we did? We went and took a bunch of pictures of a couple enjoying the wine. We did a photo of the staff bringing breakfast to people. And what did we see? We saw a healthy lift in web traffic. We saw a significant increase in revenues and profitability for the business, and higher ratings on key social rating and review sites, because we were answering the questions and talking about the things that customers told us were important to them. Every piece of information you have there in your Google business profile answers a customer question and makes them somebody more likely to choose you. So if they submit reviews, go ahead and reply to them. Go ahead and reply to your reviews. Google pays attention to that, to say, if you got a bunch of reviews and nobody has replied to any reviews in the last year, are you still in business? Are you still there? So they're very conscious of saying, we want to promote businesses that seem like the businesses we want to talk to. Okay. If somebody's posting a review that's good, you don't have to reply to everyone, but reply to them regularly to show that you're alive and you're paying attention. If somebody posts a negative review, you want to reply to every single negative review. Because if customers see that you had a negative review, but you replied to it and we're trying to make it better for the customer, that's going to work to your advantage. It's going to say, wow, these people care. They're trying to make it right. And you always, always, always reply to a review in the same way. You start by saying, thank you so much for letting us know about this. We are sorry that you did not have an experience that lives up to our expectations. If you can contact us here directly, we can go ahead and work with you to make this right. So you want to make sure you're being active in replying to those reviews, because it shows you care. If you have a ton of bad reviews, right? Right here, I was showing you all the good reviews these folks got, but they got bad reviews too. If you got a ton of bad reviews, that might tell you something about your service that you need to fix, or at least that you need to stop promoting. People said, we love the staff, we love the breakfast, we love the location. What do? We took pictures of the staff, we took pictures of the couple, we took pictures of the breakfast. We didn't take pictures of the things that were negative and show it to people, because we already knew we did a bad job on that. We worked on improving that, but we didn't talk about it till we got it improved. Okay. The last thing I said we have to talk about is regular updates. This is something I'm showing this in the Business Profile Manager, but you'll see it regularly when you go to the Home tab. It shows up in a couple different places depending on whether you're on Maps or Search. But notice there's specific questions Google's asking. Right now, this is a new thing. Update online appointments, or update business hours, or post your COVID-19 update. These are things that Google cares about, because customers are asking more questions about them. That's why this is new. So check this maybe once a month, every few weeks, see if there's anything new, and update with more information as it becomes important. And here's something I was mentioning before, you can update with online appointments. You click that box and it will give you a place to put in a link to your online appointment scheduling tool. Now, why do we do all this? Well, we do all this because we want to generate revenue for our business. We want to grow our business and make some money. And there's a very simple formula. We're talking about visitors times conversion rate times customer lifetime value equals revenue, right? So if you have 1,000 visitors to your page and you convert 5% of them, and you have $100 lifetime value, that's $5,000 in top line revenue. So the reason we do this is because, one, you might be trying to increase your visitors. If you go from 1,000 to 2,000, suddenly you got 10 grand instead of 5. And again, for your business, multiply this by 10, multiply it by 100, doesn't matter, right? Or you can increase your conversion rate. We still have the same 1,000 visitors, but 10% of them convert instead of 5. Again, we double our money. Or you can increase the customer lifetime value, sell to them twice instead of once. You go to $10,000. And of course, we can go ahead and increase all of these and do really well, explode our business to get larger and get more revenue for our business and stay in business over time. We think about all of this as part of what we call a hub and spoke strategy. Your website and email list are the things that should be at the center. They're the most important part. But Google Business Profile, your Google Business Profile is a critical spoke in that hub and spoke strategy. And it's how you connect with people when they're doing those 30,000 local searches a second, so that they can find you, so that they can learn about you, so that you can get more visitors, so they can convert more visitors, and so that you can grow more revenue for your business. You know, there's an old story, you may have heard this once before, but these two guys are walking through the woods. The reason I want you to pay attention to this, right, is you've got competition out there. And your competition is probably doing this. And if they're not, they're providing you an opportunity. There's these two guys who are walking through the woods, and all of a sudden they see a bear charging towards them. The first guy sits down and he kicks off his boots and pulls a pair of sneakers out of his backpack and starts putting them on. And the second guy says, "What are you doing? You will never outrun that bear." And the first guy says, "I don't have to outrun the bear. I just have to outrun you." That's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to make sure that we can do what we need to do to outrun the other guy and outrun the bear. So we've talked about how you make sure you have your Google Business Profile. We've talked about making sure you've got the right information, that you've got the right updates. We've talked about making sure that you have images. We've talked about making sure that you have the right location. We've talked about making sure that you focus on your ratings and reviews. And we've talked about making sure that you update with any critical updates to the questions your customers are asking 30,000 times a second. Obviously, there's lots of other useful, low-cost or free tools out there. You should take advantage of them. We're going to have a whole series of webinars. Next week, we're going to talk about Google Analytics. The week after that, we're going to talk about websites. These are all things you should be paying attention to, but start with your Google Business Profile to make sure that that's up to date and you can answer your customers' questions. And with that, I would now like to answer your questions with the time that we have remaining. So Christian, what questions do we have?
Awesome. So Peter asks, what's the best way to set up for a virtual business, no physical location, servicing multiple local zip codes, towns?
Yeah, sure. So you can create a business profile. I'm looking for a specific slide. My business is the same thing. I don't actually have a physical location. So what you can do, sorry, I'm looking for the specific thing so I can show it. Oops, you know what? I don't have a slide about this. I can show you in the real world. I will show you in my actual Google Business Profile. Just give me 1 second. I will share my screen and you'll be able to see it.
In the meantime, guys, please submit your questions into the Q&A. If you can't find it, you can put it in the chat right now.
Cool. Can you see my screen? You see where we have service areas? So you don't have to fill out a physical location if you don't want to. You can go ahead and just choose service areas. You create the profile exactly the same. You can ignore putting in a physical location, but you would simply say these are the categories that I'm in, and these are my service areas. I would not try to do this using Google Maps. I would do it using Google Search or going to google.com/business, and you would set it up here. Okay.
Awesome.
That's how you do that.
David asks, is it better to do a post on your website directly or do a blog post? Or is it better to go to your Google Business Profile and do a post?
Yeah, it's a great question. So better is a funny, I wouldn't say it's a funny way to think about it. That's not the right way to say that. I wouldn't think of it as better or worse. I would think about it as where is most important to where your customers tend to be seeing that information, right? So for some types of information, like the things that show up in search, are you seeing my screen right now? You're seeing my Google Business Profile?
Yes, we're seeing the details, colon.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay, great. So things like these kinds of updates, of a change in amenity or change in accessibility or things along those lines, I would make sure you're going in and checking the box in Google Business Profile, but you might have an announcement about the fact that, hey, we are more accessible. We are now, we've just added a new wheelchair ramp. That would make a great piece of content for your website blog about, let's show you the ramp. Let's tell a story about constructing and why we take, this into consideration for our customers and the like. So it's not an either or, it's a both and, but it's what kind of information are you sharing in those places for the needs of who's going to be there and what are they looking for? Okay.
Awesome. David says, thank you.
You're very welcome. I saw a question before in the chat. I just happened to notice this one. Somebody asked, what do you do with testimonials made by competitors or big corporations and they're bad or they're fake? Mm-hmm. So first, they may well be fake. So I don't want to say nobody ever does this. People do this for sure, right? First, it is okay to put in your response, hey, thanks for calling us out. We've searched our customer records and we can't find a record of this transaction, but if you contact us directly, we'll be more than happy to help you, right? If people see that in the replies regularly, they'll start to recognize, hey, maybe somebody's spamming you. You also do have the ability to report reviews to say, this review is fake. This is not a real person. It then has to go through an approval process. They have to try to validate it and the like. So it doesn't always work, but just be clear about the fact of you're commenting on something that we don't have any record it happened. Don't ever say, and I hate telling people don't do something ever, but this is the one time I will say, don't do something ever. You've probably seen these horror stories. There was a bakery out in Arizona. There was another one not long ago where, somebody wrote a terrible review and the bakery wrote back, you're a lying sack of garbage. This didn't happen. You suck, yada, 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 all this other kind of stuff. And the business got immense negative coverage in the media because they were telling their customers that they were terrible people. I don't know if the customer was real. I don't know if the customer was fake. I know that the businesses who suffered. So say thanks, say we've looked into this, we've amended our policies, or we can't find a record of your transaction. Here's our contact information. Get in touch with us directly and we'll make this right for you. That's the best you can do in those, and then report if you genuinely think it's fake.
Awesome. I do see a question here where same question where a law firm is saying an opposing counsel's client wrote a bad review. So you would say, same thing, either report it or answer as you said, thank you, we've checked into our records. We don't seem to find you as a client or customer in our database.
That's exactly right. Right. I'm, not sure what happened here. Is it possible that you were thinking of a different law firm, like the person who is, our opposing counsel in that case? Not legal advice, by the way. I am not a lawyer. So
yeah. Awesome.
All right, we probably have time for one more question.
Yeah, let me see. There's a few here. I want to make sure we get one that we have not covered yet. Okay. So Anonymous asks, at the start when you're talking about location, didn't you say your business moved? Doesn't that mean you had a location? Is it from home business or you moved? Just wondering.
Yeah.
What are the risks of putting an address where you live on Google Business Profile if you happen to work from home?
Yeah. So if you happen to work from home, first of all, I don't want to tell you should or shouldn't do something. If I do work from home, I do not put my home address on my Google Business Profile, right? So not because I'm worried about my clients, but because I'm worried about some wackadoodle who decides to find me or something along those lines. I'd rather not have my home address out there from that perspective. In full disclosure, I put the business address in on my profile so that you could see it in the slides, because it was the only place I could edit something that I could share without revealing client data. In the real world, I do not actually list a physical address. So, if you are a work from home business, you probably don't want to put your home address out there. There may be cases if you're, let's say you're I know somebody very well. I've got a friend who performs hairstyling for trans youth, right? Because and they want someplace private, and they do it they have a room above their garage where they do this and the like. And so they do list their home address so that people can find them and the like, but that's one where they're targeting a very specific customer and the like. So it's really your call what you do there. Personally, I would not do it for my business, but that's just something you have to make a decision for yourself.
Yeah, you can also get a virtual address, no?
So you cannot actually, if you have a fake address that people can't visit and you list it in your Google business profile, Google will ban you from the business listings. So you only put a physical address if you actually have a physical address people can visit. That's a great question, Christian. I'm glad you brought that up.
Awesome.
Because Google will drop you from the business profile altogether if you are putting a fake location there.
Wow. Okay. Well, you heard it here. Either real address or no address are the options.
All right, so I know we're running a little long. I just want to go ahead and wrap us up. Again, remember what Bill Reddy said. You're thinking of the Google Business Profile as the connector between you and your evolving customer base. Remember, about 46% of searches contain location intent. Remember that you have to focus on the 5 key features of location, details, images, reviews, and updates. Remember, your customers want to know, am I going to be satisfied when using your product and service, and why I should buy from you? Remember that there are 30,000 local search queries every second. And so the last thing I want to remember is to be sure that you're one of them. With that, I want to thank you all so much for your time. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for great discussion. I hope you're all well. And with that, I'm going to kick it back over to Christian to wrap us up.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Peter. Peter, that is. So for next week, guys, we have another webinar with Tim, and this one's going to be how to get started with your business website. And for that, you can go ahead and scan the QR code there to register. I'll give you guys a second to do that. All right. So there you go. Thank you for joining us on another webinar. We're at the NJSBDC. We've helped 15,000 plus small businesses. To get started with us, go ahead to njsbdc.com/request-counseling. You can get all the fun links at the QR code there, whether it's social media, our website, newsletter, etc. I'll leave this up for a bit. But I want to thank you, everyone, for joining, and hope to see you on the next one. Thanks.